truth that, commercial is very overwhelming, and there is so many different facets to commercial real estate. Hi, I'm Scott Thayer. If none of you guys know me, then hello, first time if you're meeting, but I see most of you are familiar faces. So when I started investing in commercial real estate or investigating it further, it was obviously a lot different than the residential arena. You have a house, maybe you have a duplex, triplex, fourplex, and you stop there. So mostly people are going to go and live in there, right? So it's a very defined arena. Commercial, you have so many different subsegments, and since most of us are realtors or brokers in this office, you have an audience that you need to serve. So just like how you saw, and I'm glad that Rana went prior, because those examples, I'm glad that they've overwhelmed you, because if it's overwhelming to you, can you imagine what it's doing to the uneducated masses who just want a safe, secure return on their money preserved and backed by real estate, right? So, and our job is to guide them in the right direction as the fiduciary responsible people, that, hey, you know what, these are the different things you can invest in. So what I started to do is I tried to simplify things for me, because I'm not so smart. So I like to keep things simple and make sure that, if I can understand it and explain it to a 5 or 10-year-old, I think that I should be able to absorb that, and adults should be able to understand it as well. So what if you haven't got one of these handouts, I would recommend that you get one of these coins. So this is something I designed not only for myself, then I shared this with my clients, because I'm sharing this with you today, because you can use this. A show of hands, how many investors in the room who's intending on investing in commercial real estate at this point? Nobody wants to invest in commercial real estate. Awesome, great. So you scared everybody, and you have successfully accomplished your mission. It is not that bad. It's not that hard once we simplify it, right? All this. Okay, can someone tell me? Please share your feelings and thoughts. What is so scary about commercial real estate to you? Why wouldn't you consider buying that versus residential?
Yes, some uncertainty from environmental or city. For example, if you would like to invest in a restaurant, but the environmental report says, 30 years ago there is leaking some pipe nearby. You need to do certain kind of things.
Okay, great. All right. And anyone else?
I think primarily is the finding the tenants, and then also the rent controls and the new statewide rent control and just cause evictions being talked about,
Sure.
implemented statewide.
Sure. So it's higher risk.
Uncertainty.
Right.
Yeah.
There's uncertainties, there's higher risk, bigger dollar amounts.
Right.
So if you were to take a hit, the impact would be very large, right? So yeah, I understand that. So, but there's ways to manage risk, and I think even this simple document in front of you is going to help you manage that risk very easily. Okay, and I'll show you how.
And also, another thing is a lot of people, they don't understand, because there's so many different varieties in that commercial. Residential is a home, everybody understands, they live in there, they understand what's going on. When you're going in a commercial, it's a totally different animal. And it's so many of them.
Correct.
Variety.
Right. So anytime I'm looking at a property, or one of my clients comes in and says, hey, I have no clue about commercial, I want to get started in commercial, what should we do? This is where most people don't spend any time, and this is the most critical piece of the investment triangle that I have, right? So I have 3 sides to the triangle. Like I said, I like to keep things very simple so I can understand it. The base of this triangle is called the plan. And the other side is called the product, and the other side is called the procedure. Okay, so these are the 3 sides of the triangle, the Pentagon system that I built. So in the plan, when a client comes into you, or even if you're sitting around, you should ask yourself, what's my agenda? And the answer to that is in very 2 basic forms. Are you looking for cash? So are you looking for capital gains, or are you looking for cash flow? So someone like, there's someone in the audience said that their brother-in-law or a relative is looking for cash flow because they are in the healthcare industry, they make a lot of money, they don't want to deal with residential, they're okay with the lower return on money, but they want a steady check coming in. They don't want the unpredictability of tenants, toilets, and trash, right?
Yes.
They just want a flat check, I'll take a lower cut, no problem, make sure that it's coming for the next 20, 30 years, and I'm happy with that. So that's their agenda, they want cash flow. Some folks be like, hey, listen, I have 100 grand or I have $1 million to invest, I don't have that much more capital. I want to grow my nest egg first, and then I want to look at commercial real estate or other things, or that's the extent of it, I just want to gain more capital. So that piece you need to identify first. So you say, okay, I'm playing for cash, or I'm playing for cash flow, all right? And then you can look nationwide, you can look in California, you can look in your back. Why do most people invest in California? You know what kind of cap rates we have right now, right, for commercial? Anybody? Huh?
5.5.
Mostly here, they, for appreciation.
Right, exactly, so that's a good answer. So, you know, a lot of folks will be like, hey, I want to invest in apartments. So there's so many different things that they can invest in, right? So when I'm talking about product, I talk about product as in what in commercial real estate is your product. So you have apartment buildings, you have self-storage facilities, you have mobile home parks, you have land development, you have new construction, right? You have restaurants you can build, you can do, there's so many different things that I haven't even mentioned that you all fall under the commercial real estate umbrella. And you can spend your entire career in just one segment or a sub-segment and have more money than you wanted to ever make in your life, right? So you don't have to be a master of everything. You can choose to be a generalist. I like to be a generalist, but that's just the way my career is taken forth. It was never intentional. But some people will just focus on apartment buildings. Some people will just do self-storage. Some people will just do triple net leases, you know, and that's what they'll invest in, or that's what they'll tell their clients to buy. So you have to understand what the other person's needs are on the other side from the table from you, or if you're asking yourself, hey, what are my needs? Am I looking for stable cash flow? Am I looking for some gains? Or am I looking for, what is my agenda? Or it's a mix of two. So like Rana just pointed out, most people who invest in California will take a hit on cash flow, even suffer negative cash flow at times, if they're not leveraging correctly. If you don't put enough, if you put enough money down, you can make anything cash flow, really. But if you're trying to do high leverage, you have to sacrifice some cash flow, unfortunately, there. But what are they betting on? That the market's gonna keep going up, right? And a lot of times, that market is going to keep beating what you could have made in cash flow. Like, so when we had that downturn in 2008, 2009, 2010, people were looking for cash flow properties. But people who doubled down on California properties, even though they had cash flow, not enough cash flow, they made out like bandits because the capital gains, the appreciation just knocked the socks off the cash flow you could ever make anywhere in the country. So you kind of have to understand what your goal is and what the other side's goal is, right? And then make a decision for them rather than just saying, yeah, I'm a specialist in apartment buildings. Everybody go into apartment buildings. They have their own problems, like you know he mentioned as well. There are problems with management. Acquisition is easy, but managing the asset is really the difficult, challenging part, right? So you need a good property manager, or you need to be a good property manager to be able to manage your assets correctly. Scale is important. So I wasn't here earlier, but you know, so for example, if you have 50 to 60 units, maybe you can afford to hire someone part-time. The majority of the folks who start playing in the big leagues, now they're doing 100 units, 200 units, 300 units. It's because of scale, right? Now you can hire full-time people because the scale will allow you to bring on full-time people. And you might not be able to do that yourself. You might be able to do syndications, which means you give me 50 grand, you give me 50, you give me 50, you give me 100, you give me 200, and we pull it in it, and we do a takedown of a $10 million, $20 million, $50 million property. Okay, so you don't have to go at this solo, so you minimize your risk this way. I know I'm sharing a lot, but the idea is to overwhelm you more than Rana did. Okay? So then you can come back to Joe and complain, be like, I have no idea what these two guys said. I need more training, and then you will be more specific about, hey, this is what I want to say, because this curriculum is so vast. I wish I could say that residential is 4 walls, roof, house, go sell it, go buy it, go invest in it. Rehab, fix, flip, wholesale it, done. Commercial doesn't work that way. There's so many different facets to this diamond. It's amazing. But you'll have to come back and be like, hey, I like this, and come back to Joe and tell him, this is what we want to do, and then they can have a more specialized class on just that, okay? So that's what this is about. So it's okay if you're overwhelmed. Go ahead.
Well, isn't it true that, I think I heard that if a department has over, what, 13 or 15 units, you must have a on-site property manager?
No,
living
there's
there?
no, not full-time.
16 or 18?
16.
Once you hit 16,
You need to have someone living,
16.
living.
Is it full-time though?
No.
Somebody has
But
to
you have
live
to have
there.
an on-site
Someone has to
manager.
live on site.
Sure.
No, not live.
Not live.
Not lit.
Have to have an on-site manager during working hours.
Okay.
On-site manager, giving up a whole apartment, that's impacting your cash flow right now. So that's why people
So
go
you need
larger
to have an
larger
office
ones.
somewhere, there's always
Of
people
course.
there, right?
Sure. You know, so again, every state had its different rules. Okay, so let's keep this a little broad in terms of specifics. Rent control is a big problem, like you said. You know, doing phase 1, phase 2 in the ground. Those are all curable issues. So if you've seen a lot of developments in Milpitas, that was all. They had to go through environmental. They had to do phase 1, phase 2, and still the projects were lucrative. So if you go by the Great Mall now, that they've got all these condos, they all had to do phase 2 environmental. because there used to be some toxic dump there, or God knows what was there, but that project took a long time, but it was financially viable at the end of it. So it's not only about risk, it's about time as well, and hopefully the market keeps going up, and you buy low enough so you can make it profitable. Okay, so those are the things you have to factor in. So now, once you've identified what your client's plan is, or what your plan is, or what product you want to use, so be it self-storage, be it apartment buildings, mobile home parks, whatever, then you look at procedures. So what Rana, I don't know if he went into, is when they bought these assets, when they acquired these securities, these weren't performing assets. He has a background in building, so it's easy for him to see, no walls, missing walls, no problem, I'll build it, I'll fix it, no problem. For your end investors, that might not be a reality. That might be very challenging for them, getting permits, hustling with vendors, making sure you don't overpay. That's a craft on its own, and he spent a lot of years doing that. So for him to acquire something that's, oh, no tenants, no walls, I'll fix it, no problem. It's completely different than, you know, the average Joe or the average bear going and going, oh wow, this is a lot of work, right? And that creates investment opportunities for people who are willing to take the work. Did you go in through that? You guys had to rehab and everything?
No, we didn't.
So he just showed you the nice pretty picture at the end, right? Ask him to show next time what would look like when they acquired the asset.
Yes.
So now that's when I say in the triangle, when you say procedure, right? The procedure is, his was fix and hold for cash flow. For me, in this market, would be personally, but you know, we have run very two different businesses. Might be in the same industry, but it's two very unique goals, right? So for me, it would be fix and flip the property. So for me, it would be, I would buy a dilapidated building, I would renovate it, and I'm putting it back on the market, so after stabilizing it, which means put tenants in, or not even put tenants in, it looks pretty now. So someone like, you know, in the audience said that we don't want to do any fixing, he wants steady cash flow. So I get a good property manager, connect the two, I get my check once I sell it to them after I fixed it, right? Or around I would be like, hey man, I'm not looking to do any more of these renovations, I know how to property manage, sell me the asset. He didn't want to burn down property, but he wants a renovated property, which will attract tenants today. So you see what I'm saying? So that's where the procedure comes in. That's a third angle. So people are like, are you shorting the market? Are you going long the market? Are you rehabbing? Are you renovating? Are you holding for cash flow? What are you doing? That angle needs to come in. So that is the interview process that you have to ask yourself, okay? Or ask your client when they sit across from me and says, I want commercial property. Great, I want to be a bazillionaire. You know, it makes no sense, that comment, right? So you have to be a little bit more focused, and this triangle will help you get that focus if you really address those parts. Once you've addressed it, who found these OMs or operating memorandums are very overwhelming? Too much data. Anybody found too much data on here? No. Not overwhelming? You guys are geniuses, because I find it very overwhelming. I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, this is so scary. So that's why I created something what I call as a wealth pentagon, right? Which is the pentagon has 5 sides to it. If a lot of people went in residential real estate, what do? We talk about the location. We talk about school districts. We talk about what's coming in. We talk about the amenities. We talk about the growth of the area, or the current status of the area. There are jobs here, all that kind of stuff. I'm very sensitive to words, so I try to keep all that noise out. I want to look at facts before I make an investment decision. And the facts can only come from a very simple place. I don't need to run spreadsheets, I don't need market, and I don't need any of that. I need just these 5 sides. And I'll start with the 5 sides, right? First part is on the top right, which is the cost. What's my purchase price, right? So this is the thing, anytime you have a deal that have you got a sheet? Okay, good. If someone doesn't have a sheet, there are extras up in the front. So the cost on the top right side is the purchase price. If you're looking to renovate, it'll be purchase price plus whatever your repairs are. The other side of it is the equity, which means your down payment. How much money do I have to put down? 10% down, 5% down, 20% down? Can I do creative financing? Can I get all seller financing? Can I, do a blanket mortgage if I'm doing land development and sell some stuff out underneath it? All these things would go under here, all right? The liability is your debt, essentially the mortgage that you are going to be acquiring. So that would be basically the cost minus the equity would be the mortgage somebody would have to lend against the property. If there's existing financing you can take over, right? But so for it's $1 million, I put down 200,000, it's 800,000 is the debt. Is everyone with me so far? Yeah?
Yeah.
The other part, which is the most critical piece for a lot of people, not for me at times, is cash flow. Which means if I'm buying the asset today, after I'm done paying all this noise and my mortgage, how much am I netting in my pocket? If that number is negative, I'm absolutely giving it a second thought if my goal is cash flow, right? But if my goal is capital gains or appreciation, I might be willing to overlook that. So you need those facts. The most critical piece, which I've built my business on and I focus on every time I look at a deal, is the bottom piece, which is called the trading range. That comes in because I started my career as an appraiser in this industry. So I am always valuing things. How much is this stuff worth as is today? And what is the future retail value if I was to invest some money into it? If I was to rehab it, if I was to put it out for retail, what is the future value worth? So Rana can invest in buy something for $1 million today. That's the as-is value. But if he renovates it and puts in another 200,000, this property is now worth not 1.2, it's maybe worth almost 2 mil or 1.5 mil. You follow? Because it's rehabbed. And what's his strategy? He'll go to the bank. Asset is now stabilized based on the income. This property is now worth, say, 1.5 million. I want to refinance. And what will he do? He will get all his investment out, assuming that his cash flow is still positive. And that's what he wants to do. So how much does he have in the deal if he refinances everything out? Nothing. That's the beauty of commercial real estate. So you can minimize your risk by using certain strategies, and that's where the procedure comes in. Okay, like you need to. But sometimes, say for example, the guy who's a doctor wants to acquire this asset. He's not looking to do what he's thinking. He wants to keep his money in the asset. He's like, now if I refinance it, I'll get my capital back. Now what's the other problem? Now I gotta go find a place to put that money somewhere else. I don't need that headache. Just let it sit in there. So it just depends on the audience on the other side or your agenda yourself. For me, I'm in sync with him on that. As soon as I put my money in, the next question is, when am I getting it back? And the third question I'm asked, so the first question is, how much is it? Second question is, when do I get it back? The third question I'm asking is, what do I get for free?
Oh, good questions.
Right? So every time an investment comes up to your desk in commercial real estate, how much is it? When do I get it back? And what do I get for free? Right? So how do you apply it to the example that he's shown you? How much is it? So okay, you'll have to put 200 grand of your money. Great, when do I get it back? Once you renovate it, go back and refinance it, you get the property stabilized, you'll get your 200 grand back, probably more. What do I get for free? You get free cash flow till you hold the asset, or free cash flow for life. Okay, I'll do this. It is free, right? Because he got his 200 grand back and he probably got more money out of it. So he has nothing in the deal. He's getting it for free. Oh, the market went up, went down, who cares? I don't have anything in the deal. You have to have a certain level of education, certain level of training, certain level of risk tolerance for this. And that's where the trading range comes in, right? If I know I'm buying today and it's worth $1 million, and this could be a black box, and I don't care, it could be this building, it could be an apartment building, it could be self-storage facility. I know I'm buying this for $1 million, and this same thing, we run comps, right? Everyone's run a CMA, everyone's run comps, so we use different tools in commercial, but they're very similar. You gotta be like, hey, what's the price per door? What's the price per unit? What's the price per whatever it is, right? A price per hotel room if you're doing hotels or whatever it is, right? Price per bed, right? So you have to look at comps like that, and that's where your trading range will come from. So if you know that a 15 or 20 or 50 unit building is trading in Stockton for $100 or 100 grand per door, and if he can acquire that for 70 grand a door or 50 grand a door, is there a spread?
Yes.
Right? Does he need a spreadsheet to figure out if he's going to do the deal? He's going to figure out how am I going to put the money together to buy the damn thing, right? So if you bring it down to the basics, it'll help you understand this industry a little better. It'll also help you help your clients a bit better as well, based on what their agenda is. So the person who's looking for stable cash flow, you tell them, I can buy this for 50, we'll do the renovation, and we will call these contractors, we'll do all this permit process, and now it'll go all the way up to 100. What's that guy thinking? you're crazy. I don't have time to brush my teeth. You want me to do all this stuff? It sounds great. Why don't you find me something that's already at not 100, maybe 95 bucks or 95,000 per door, and I'll buy that. And I don't have to do any work. So that's a different audience that you're trying to pitch rehabs and renovation to, okay? They might be more happier with a triple net lease, or they might be more happier with a stabilized asset. Everyone looks very confused.
I understand everything, but how
Good.
do you get the planes? Where do you get the planes?
That's fantastic. So, it's a great question. It depends again what industry you want to first work in. If you're a blank sheet and starting from scratch and you have no idea where you want to start. Okay, so that's where you're asking. That's very good. The easiest thing that you will be able to do it within your circle of influence, if you have a client base currently, see what they're buying. Most people will want to buy maybe a duplex, triplex, fourplex, and through that, you'll be able to get into apartments easier. If you want to do self-storage, that's again a very specific niche, right? If you're starting out, what I would try to focus on is listings. If you focus on listings, you will automatically find the players who are the buyers, right? And then through that, you can build relationships. How do you get listings? Same thing, direct mail, door knocking, cold calling, posting signs, asking for referrals.
So you start from there,
same
Scott, and you move on to whatever.
and you will find your comfort zone. I found this, I like to go in all different arenas because that's my interest. I'm just naturally very curious about things in commercial real estate. So I'll go, hey, but how does mobile
So you
home parks
started doing
work?
appraisals, and from there you move on to where?
So my whole idea was, it's a sad story. So the first company I worked for went public, so we made some money there. So I wanted to buy race cars, my father told me to buy real estate. So I ended up buying real estate, and then I bought the race car. So, and then I said, hey man, I've watched this stuff on TV, that you renovate the kitchen, and you end up with $1 million in the bank, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously I put in the Ralph Lauren paint, I put in, the bowling alley floors, and all that kind of good stuff. And obviously I listed on the market, and there's no noise. I'm like, this really sucks. I spent so much money. I didn't lose money. I broke even because I sold it after a couple of years. But I was like, hey man, I'm an engineer. I should be able to crack this. Why did I not make the money that I was thinking I was making, right? At that point, my brother had started in the industry. He's like, you know what? Based on your personality, I think you will do well with appraising. And I'm like, what's this appraising thing? And I ended up in the valuation industry. But my goal was, and I still appraise to this day, I still do, I have a very active appraisal business. The objective from that is not to milk as much money from that, even though we make good money there. It's to keep a pulse on the market, see what the market's doing. The refis are up now, purchases are slower now, so I get a pulse on, if we're in the rehab business, because we have a rehab business as well, if the market's slowing down, I want to be the first one to know. So I can plan my exit, A lot of people will wait until they take a hit and be like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done this deal, because like right now when we are acquiring property, I want a bigger spread. I'm not doing every deal. I want a much larger margin in case the market decides to soften a little bit. If you're doing open houses, you are probably noticing that too right now, that hey, you know what, there are a lot fewer buyers, there's still a lot of people coming, but a lot fewer offers than there used to be before. So we're in a changing market. At that point, I'm taking a step back. Not that I'm not investing, I just want a larger margin of safety. Okay, so to answer your question, which a lot of people have, how do I get started? The simplest place is because we all live in a house, even though some people have suggested I should live in my car. Don't try that, it's not fun. If you do, that's the easiest place to relate. Apartment buildings, right? Self-storage, you're like, well, nobody's going to be storing their stuff if you don't store stuff yourself. But if you go out and check out what these U-Haul facilities are doing self-storage, they're packed.
Yeah, they're running out of places.
They're full, and it's even in self-storage, there's even multiple layers of self-storage, right? You have the regular 10 by 10, 10 by 20, whatever size, then you have RVs, you have boat storage, you have the other different types of storages that you will not relate to at this point because of your experience base. But if you get into it, there's a lot more that you can, and even in, say for example, in commercial, another thing, you can do land development. That also falls under commercial. And now if you're doing land development, you can do property development as the next phase. You can just sell off the land after you've done entitlements. Or you can build apartment buildings, you can build residential assisted living care facilities, you can build hospitals, you can build commercial plazas, you can build shopping malls. There's so many different things you can get into. So, you know, for us to just have 1 2-hour session and be like, let me teach you everything about commercial is a little impractical.
So you're thinking more, you start with listings and you see what area you like
If
best.
you
and
like,
move.
if you like self-storage, if you like mobile home parks, I would try to go get a listing. That's what I would try to do. I wouldn't try to find buyers. Because unless you already have a buyer, like some of us do in the audience, say, I'm looking for a triple net, I don't wanna touch anything, then you go talk around, hey, I'm looking for this client, then that's what they're shopping for. But if you don't have that luxury of a buyer who you know won't screw you over and you're not working for nothing, I would start with listings. Ron, would you?
Yeah, I think, and also first you have to define yourself, you have to maybe focus on one area at a time. And you should have knowledge on that area, like before you go ask for listing, you should know what you're gonna
Yeah.
deliver when you get the listing. So you have to focus on one area, then you start from it. And you can have a buyer, then it's, when you have a buyer, you can get a listing.
Like, yeah.
But your knowledge in that area should be very, very
I thought that
important.
was the whole purpose. I thought we were going to learn how to get into the commercial.
This is an introduction.
This is just, what is a commercial,
So-
first you have to understand what the commercial is,
No,
how
but-
the market
But
works.
if that's the goal you came in with, we'll help you with that too. We will obviously make you satisfied with that. So if, I'm assuming you want to start with apartment buildings, is that what you want to do?
I've had enough experience with apartment buildings.
So what would you like to do in terms of commercial listings? Anybody else wants to get commercial listings starting out? Yeah? Okay, so there's one other person.
I want.
A few others, okay, great. So if she, all right, great, so a few honest people in the audience, everyone else don't know what they're here for. So if you want to really get started today and say, hey, I want apartment buildings, I would go to your title company or find another listing source which has, which would provide you a list of apartment buildings. Start with 20, go up maximum up to 20 units. Don't go into the 50s, 100s, don't do that because it's not, it'll be way out of your comfort zone at this point, right? You want to test and you want to fail quickly, so you can come back and not embarrass yourself, be like, hey man, this is telling me this, what the hell does this mean? What's rent roll, what's, you know, what's a P&L look like? Why am I having to do so much work? As you'll find that as the larger the buildings are, they're more organized. The smaller buildings are very disorganized, which is fine, you'll have to do a lot of this, putting this stuff together, right? Larger buildings will give you everything, be like, yeah, button, you've got everything, right? So that's a difference. And there's a lot more competition for that too, just because there's more money in disarray, there's more money in disorganization. So I will always go into problems first. So again, coming back to how do you get listings, I would, if you're okay with cold calling, if you're showing up to the door, if you're doing direct mail, whatever your strategy is, that's another complete class on its own, right? What you want to do is figure out who bought apartment buildings in the last 10 years, right? So it's 2019, so all the loans that they were doing back in 2008 and 2009 usually had a 5 or a 10-year leash on them. And a lot of those people can't refinance again based on today's lending guidelines. So either they gotta come up with cash or they gotta sell. I would start there because there's a need there. There's a problem there, right? So if you can cold call them, show up.
Were you approaching a client, like,
Huh?
were you approaching a client, kind of say, what, like, you know, like, what, you gonna refinance, you gonna sell your property, basically?
Yeah, basically, so in our office, we do loans too, right? So there's a division here which does loans, so they can help them, so if they qualify, you can work that out. If no, your job is to get a listing. So if you get 10 folks, hopefully, one of them will tell you, yeah, list my thing, I don't know what to do with that, I don't qualify to refinance, and I don't wanna lose a house. Because if you look at commercial loans, there are spikes, they're just like adjustable rate mortgages.
Yeah.
In 1 minute you have a $1,500 payment, next thing you know you have a $4,000 payment. And what happens next? Foreclosure. Nobody wants that. So you're looking for those triggers. So 5-year, 7-year, 3-year, like there are a lot of homes, single family homes that people bought as investment properties, they bought through hard money lenders. Hard money lenders, timeline is what? 12 months, 24 months. They gotta refinance or they gotta sell. That should be your target audience. There's a need. I'll think about selling, call me in 6 months, call me, nah, no. 6 months, I'll be somewhere else. I don't even know what I'll be doing in 6 months. You wanna do business today? Let's work on that.
And there's also another thing, like on the listing, a lot of, when you go in a commercial listing, a lot of people, they don't want to give you the listing. They will say, okay, why don't you give me a buyer? So you can indirectly, you can start advertising that your on your way. And once you have somebody find out, you have some buyer, then you can talk to them.
Mhm.
It's very, very common in commercial.
So it'll be more of an open listing.
Open listing.
They are not gonna give you an exclusive.
Yeah.
It's very common.
Yeah.
Unless you have a buyer specifically, they're not gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna tie you myself.
Because they must be talking to a few other agents
Yeah.
too. Like once whoever is gonna get the buyer, they can, I have a qualified buyer, here's the things, can we get it done now?
Yeah. So if you got a hot buyer, that's awesome. If you don't,
Can I meet with you later today, Charlie, for a few minutes?
I am heading out, but sure, if you have a
No,
general
no,
question,
no,
ask
no,
us,
no.
it'll help with everybody else. Okay.
How about commercial loan,
What about
lending,
what about them?
our source?
So we
Yeah,
have a few sources.
We have,
You know, I personally, I love lenders when I'm selling, but I don't like lenders when I'm buying. I try to always negotiate seller financing. I always want creative financing, because if I get go get a loan and it'll happen, I'm thinking I'm not using my brain. So I start getting lazy, right? But I don't want that, so that's why I try to avoid those deals which require me to go get a loan. It's just a personal preference, but when I'm selling, I obviously want someone who will qualify, because I want to sell at top dollar retail price, right? When I'm acquiring, I'm not paying top dollar. So do we have that in our office? Of course we do, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other creative ways. A lot of stuff that I do in residential investing comes from the world of commercial. I'll do subject to deals, I'll do, seller financing, all those strategies I learned from commercial. I didn't come up with that in residential. So I take a lot of those techniques and I apply them here. You know, having cross-collateralizing, all that, that's all commercial techniques. And you'll find that as you go along. So this is a very, very vast topic for us to discuss,
Yeah,
you know?
So
It's-
much, you know?
that's why we only picked a couple of them so we could talk.
It's relatable, right?
Brandon, you have a question?
Question!
Sorry, Brandon, I'll keep you waiting.
All these people have been like, I want to know. I'm like,
Yeah, I'll keep looking at it.
Question, okay.
Yes.
So, I raised my hand, guys.
I was looking at it.
Yeah, raising your hands, guys.
I'm just telling you, I'm like, I raised my hand, and I'm like,
Sorry.
call on me, I'm being polite. So anyway, I'm done being
Next time,
polite.
so right here.
So, here, anyways, got two questions that have boiled up. So the first thing is, I've noticed that since, I had a client that, it ended up not going anywhere because I did the consult, it was to her best interest.
Residential?
This was commercial.
Okay.
This is a business opportunity.
Okay.
And it was to her best interest to actually make a deal within her own company, and so they put that together, and I was good.
Okay.
But that kind of sparked the idea with me that now, as I talk to my residential clients, I let them know, by the way, if you have a commercial deal, I can help you with that. And my kind of roadmap is because of the so many different niches, I'm, obviously gonna partner with somebody that's more seasoned in whatever the specialty is, other than, multi-unit apartment complexes, because I have, experience with that already. So my question to you is, first question is, do you have a recommended way possibly to parlaying our existing client base to transition that to commercial? And also then my second question is, for your online advertising and your advertising in general, do you keep your commercial and your residential advertising somewhat separate, or do you have like a single site where people see that you have multiple disciplines?
No, it's separate for everything.
Okay.
You wanna have separate sites for everything, or if you're doing direct mail campaigns, or if you're doing, my background's in direct mail for marketing, so I'm very offline, a lot more than online, because the online rules change all the time. Google will change something, Facebook will change something, and there goes your business, right?
Right.
So, sure, we try some of that, but I don't understand it very well, that's why I don't double down on any of those. A lot of my friends who are in the industry, they do, and they do really well with it, so I'm not saying that that's not an angle you should try. I'm more offline direct mail, that's more my technique and strategy. But websites, if you're doing that, I'm not going to send out a flyer which says, hey, would you like to buy a house? Hey, would you like to buy a business opportunity? I would not do that. I would be
Okay.
very specific, because if I'm mailing my mailers to an apartment building, the odds of them having a business or interest in business opportunity, possible, but odds are very low, right? So, and you have only so many dollars you can work with, so keep it very specific. And that's where you want to narrow it down as much as possible. If it's apartment buildings, be like, I'm just doing 20 to 30 units. I'm not doing 20 to 200 units. Be very targeted and I'm only doing people who've held the property for more than 5 years or more than 7 years. So the more narrow down you are with your audience, the fewer dollars you can spend and get a better result, instead of casting a wider net.
And with, cause you were mentioning about, you know, the open listings,
Mhm.
and from what I've heard from commercial agents, it's like a standing joke that, you know, 20 agents have that listing down the
Yeah.
street.
Sure.
So are there any steps that you do to protect yourself to ensure that,
This is the Wild West, okay?
Usually when we
Commercial-
send out the information on there, we have an NDA.
Yeah.
Has to be sent out first. So
But-
they shouldn't talk, but.
But yeah, it's a Wild West.
Yeah.
Commercial is not residential, we don't have the same RESPA laws, and if you're a buyer, you're not protected by RESPA and TILA, or whatever, all that new
but let's
stuff they've
just,
come up with.
is there any, so, is there anything you can have at least your buyers sign so that
Yeah.
they don't go directly to the
Yeah.
seller?
But good luck fighting that out.
So there is all the tools are there, they have all the NDA and stuff.
Yeah.
but-
If your buyer or seller's gonna screw you, they're gonna screw you, move on. That's why I always keep your funnel wide enough and don't rely on just one deal. That's the only thing I'm telling you. In terms of parlaying your residential into commercial, I think as we do more in here, I'm hoping that we will have more wall
Yeah.
space
Yeah, right.
for, you know, business opportunities, apartment buildings, and the office will get a little bit more active, and that's why we have this initiative in the office to be able to address those and be like, hey, why should we do more commercial? You know, so we are, because this is a very unique setup, okay, that, you know, we have, you know, mortgage, residential, commercial, everything, and these guys are experiencing all this, not only by just, doing it for other people, they are actually investing in it themselves, so they can, yeah, this is my first-hand experience. So this is a very, very unique office in that regard, okay? And a lot of them are practitioners, not only as agents, but also as buyers themselves, so you get that. But parlaying your existing client base into this, because a lot of people who are not self-employed, who are employed right now, want to have a side gig, or want to have some money coming in, which they can outbeat their 401k. You know, you can use your 401k, turn that into a Roth, and
Yeah.
invest money from there too. Money won't come into your pocket, it'll go into your Roth, but it's building up your retirement. So we do that with our clients as well. So if that's something of interest, if that's something of your client's interest as well, we can show you guys how we're doing it. It's not a problem, but you guys gotta start somewhere,
Yeah.
you know?
And also today, we only talk about the real estate side. We didn't talk about the business opportunity.
Yeah.
We didn't talk single word about the business. So that's a totally different animal again. When you're looking at only the business.
Like when he
Because
showed you
then-
the triple net, that's a business opportunity. Someone's selling that Popeyes, right? Someone sold that Popeyes to someone.
Yeah,
That was a business opportunity.
yeah, whoever is running is a business for them,
Right.
because he's paying rent and he's making income from there, right? That's business. When you're going at, we buying only real estate. So these are, even when you're buying a lot of gas station and stuff, these are two different, contracts you have to sign. One is for you buying the real estate, and second is for the business. So that's why we have two contracts goes, so today we only talk about the real estate side.
And what he brought up is a very, very, for the thinker brains in our office, it's a very advanced strategy, which is very cool. And that's why when you learn about the different opportunities in commercial, apartment buildings, self-storage, et cetera, the reason I started falling in love with self-storage is because there are two components to it, all right? You have the business and you have the real estate.
Yeah.
What am I paying taxes on? Real estate. So when I'm acquiring, guess where all the money is going into? The business. The land is being bought for real cheap. So there are two contracts. You can do creative stuff like that in commercial. I can't do that with apartment buildings. I have to pay taxes on my whole purchase. You see what I'm saying? So these are very specialized things that you will learn as you go along and become a specialist in something, or a generalist for that matter. But start somewhere where you're comfortable, and then start inquiring. Get some training. Ask people who have done it before. Hey man, how does it work? Fail a few times. Who cares? It's okay. You will. That's how you will get back on your feet and you figure out, hey, you know what? I like this better than this
Actually,
area.
This is a very good way to build up your empire, right? Like, you started with one project, now you have money sitting in there. Like, I can give you an example of what we have. We already bought the apartment like in 2014 for 1.8 million. And then 2 years later, we refied the property and we took all our cash out while we spent it in the property. And the property right now is worth around 4.5. That one. So that means even though we had second time we took the loan, it was again at 1.7, 1.65, the rest we already. Then we still have maybe around 250 1.5 to 3 million equity in there, without, that is, we took out everything out. And the second, same thing on our second project we started. We bought a property for 625 to 16 unit. We spent 250, 275, let's see, 900,000 total. And we refi again, we took all our money out. And today we are looking at the same 16 units. This is pretty much same area those units are. They're selling for 1.6 and they already got the offer more than 1.6. I'm thinking like if that property is worth around 1.5 right now, and where we have, our loan is around 850. So we still have like maybe 700,000 equity in there. If I look at both projects, we have around $3.5 to $4 million sitting in those property. If I can take out those and buy more other units, I can do the 1031 exchange. So I don't have to pay any tax on the gains, what we have made so far. And I can, right now we have to go to around 64 units. I can buy around maybe 150 units with that money I have holding there. So you can keep building up your things without money in your pocket. You initially started and you start taking some out, and that's where when you take the money out, actually you don't have any risk left from there. Everything's somebody else is paying for your loan.
Yep.
So that way you can start from somewhere, then you can start building up. And take advantage of all the laws we have, like in the 1031 exchange is a very good one. So you don't have to pay taxes now, you can keep deferring that tax.
So around the 1.8 million property that you bought, how much did you guys have to put down?
What?
The 1.8 million property that you guys bought,
Right.
the first apartment building.
Yes.
How much did you guys have to put down?
That time we put 400,000.
So, okay, so you put down 400,000. People are like, man, I don't have $400. How's this gonna work? Well, I have 40 grand. I don't have 400,000, right? So, not to divulge all of Rana's personal information, but so he may have had partners. Maybe another way to do it is, hey, I've got cash in this deal. I've got 400 grand burning a hole in my pocket. How do I buy this deal? So 400 grand. Now he says, hey, I don't want to use all of my 400. I'll use maybe 200, or maybe I'll use only 100, and I'll get 3 other partners with 100. So now what he's done is a mini joint venture or partnership. What we like to do is syndications, but that can happen because that costs money. So when you want to do it on bigger deals, $400,000, you don't want to do that on it because it costs money, right? And the other advantage that he obviously has is depreciation.
Yeah.
And now with the new tax laws, you can do cost segregation. So instead of 27.5 years, you can take all the write-offs in the first year. So all those other things you will learn as far as benefits of doing commercial as you spend more time in the industry, right? So
Yeah.
400,000 didn't have to come out of his pocket.
Yeah.
Maybe he could have used private lenders and have nothing out of his pocket.
And right now, like now our residents, they appreciate quite a bit. They have enough equity in there. A lot of people are taking the
Another way to
equity
finance
line.
it.
So to use like
Use that
refinance-
equity line and put it down and start with something.
Where's our next session gonna be?
I have no idea. I didn't even know anyone was gonna show up.
I'm so excited, dude.
I just flew in this
Seriously.
morning from LA and they called me, they're like, you're coming in this morning, right? I'm like, why? And they're just like, oh, you have a class that you're supposed to be
Come on,
a
Scott.
part of. I'm like, you're joking.
Give us more of your knowledge, dude.
Yeah.
You gotta share the
What's
wealth.
right
So there are gonna be more,
Yeah.
but I want feedback for everybody, so we could drill down a little bit, be a
So
little
what
bit
to,
more
why,